we work with talent and when we work with film crews and production agencies, it's like we have to make sure it's representative because we want to make sure that we're being authentic to the stories that we're telling.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to We Are Duffree's Perspectives.
We have a lot of responsibility. We reach thousands and millions of people through the projects that we're doing.
We are a creative agency maximizing the positive impact on businesses, society, and our planet.
So if you currently look at all communication marketing campaigns, it's not always representing society.
Radical change needs to happen now. Otherwise, brands and companies are going to get left behind.
You know, if you're a marketing manager, if you're in a senior position, you're an opportunity maker. So how can you redistribute those opportunities in an interesting way?
Every week, founder Mitchell talks to visionaries and changemakers who are shaking up the status quo.
We create content for every living soul on this planet.
Get ready to be launched into a new perspective.
What's your guilty pleasure?
True crime, anything. It's like the more like horrifically violent, the better. I don't know if I should be telling you this. Bit weird.
What is something you wish you could master?
Spreek Nederlands. I wish I could honestly speak another language.
Dream travel destination after COVID?
Ooh, Russia.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I'm obsessed.
What should be your theme song each time you enter the room?
I love, I don't know what this says about me. Gimme, gimme, gimme a man after me. Yeah, ABBA, gimme, gimme.
Yeah.
It's literally the best. It puts me in a good mood anytime.
What's your favorite Australian slang word?
I really love, it's more of a phrase. So I love, we're not here to fuck spiders. I don't know if you've ever heard that, but it's something you say when, I used to have a boss when I was working in production in MTV and he'd get really annoyed if someone was like taking their time or taking too long, and he'd be like, oh, we're not here to fuck spiders. You know, it's more of a like, come on, like what's happening? And it's so uniquely Australian.
Yeah. Rebecca, welcome.
Thanks
for coming over. Can you give us a little introduction who you are?
Okay, so my name is Rebecca Preuss. I am an Australian living in Amsterdam, working for WeTransfer, which is a file sharing company, Dutch company. So I moved from Sydney a couple of years ago, found myself in London. Had a great time there and then got shipped over to work at the headquarters for my company here in Amsterdam. So I've just been setting my life up here and trying to learn Dutch, as you can tell, and not very successfully. But yeah, I've been in the media industry for a little over 9, almost 10 years now. And, my passion really is in content, storytelling, but now more so brand partnerships.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what does your current role at WeTransfer entail?
So my current role at WeTransfer is an interesting one. So as you would be aware, like WeTransfer is very much it's a tech platform. And so people share their files and whatever they're working on. We have advertising that sits behind that space. And, that's the ad sales business. And we have some really beautiful ads on there. So we have an editorial platform called WePresent. And I monetize that essentially. So I look for brands and partners who want to connect with our global creative audience through content, essentially. Wow. Yeah. So instead of a flat ad or just, a billboard, we're looking at doing podcasts or documentary series or, editorial articles. Branded content, essentially.
Wow, that's cool. Well, we use WeTransfer every single day. Like, we are a client and we love the service. But how did you get there? Where did you start it?
Gosh, where did I start? So I have had a really odd start to going into advertising, I think. I was very much content first, always. So I was in Australia. I studied journalism. I thought I wanted to be a journalist. I also at one point thought I wanted to be a marine biologist, a pilot, and a whole bunch of other things. So I kind of was in this situation where I just went to uni and thought, okay, well, I'm really great at writing, so I'm just going to do something that I like. And so journalism I sort of fell into it, but then really enjoyed it and ended up getting a degree in it. And then in terms of jobs and what I could look for is everybody was doing internships. So I was really fortunate enough to get an internship at a really big magazine house in Sydney, as well as one at MTV. And Yeah, which is amazing because
Yeah.
I think that I was so fortunate to get one there because I imagine so many people would be wanting to, intern. So I started there, and then because I had been there for quite some time, I interned for almost a year. I was sort of the first person to kind of see any new opportunities and jobs. And so I moved into production and understood, the back end of how do we create MTV News, how we do talent interviews, how we put on big, massive festivals and events. And I really loved it. But writing was always a passion of mine, and journalism was always a passion of mine. So when I got the opportunity to join a team that was very much involved in that, so the digital team, I jumped over there. And then I became managing editor of the website, so managing the content, both branded content as well as editorial. And then I thought, I'm really over Australia. I'm done now. I think it was, 29 years is a long time in Australia. So
Wow, always good weather though.
Yeah, always great weather. Amazing country. But I just felt that where I was in my career and the age that I was at as well was the perfect time to kind of pack up and try for a new adventure. So I left MTV without a job, with some money, and I just moved over to England, and I kind of just hustled for a position anywhere and ended up at the BBC, which is nice. So I kind of had a really good opportunity where I had so much experience in doing content and then selling content that I sort of made a little pocket for myself, if you will. Like when I got to England, I thought, okay, if there's so much more opportunity here, but like what can I really bring to the table that's a bit different, being so new? And it's that kind of, the two-sided content and then being able to kind of, pitch an idea as well.
You can have two hats on with
Yeah.
being in one position, but
which is important in what I do with branded content because there's such a fine line between what makes it good and what doesn't make it good, and trying to convince a brand that like we're going to take your money and make a series and your brand's not going to be all over it. It's not a TVC. And so it's like a very different way of working and thinking and pitching. And so luckily I was afforded an opportunity at the BBC to really run with that. So that was fun.
cool. Yeah. So you worked for BBC, which operates within quite a traditional media landscape.
Yeah.
What motivated you to transition to what WeTransfer?
That traditional media landscape was not for me anymore. No, I just honestly, I think BBC is an amazing institution, and it is an institution. And I think my personality, who I am as a person, and I guess where I was at in my career, I really was looking for something that was a little bit more fast-paced, that had room to grow. And so there was a really amazing opportunity at WeTransfer, which was the content partnerships manager, which is what I am now. And I just jumped at it. And I was like, I need to at least give it a go.
Yeah. What's the concept behind WePresent?
So the concept behind WePresent is it was created as an editorial platform to essentially inspire ideas or inspire the creatives that are sharing these amazing projects across a file sharing platform. It almost exists as WeTransfer's branded content hub, because we're not writing about WeTransfer, but we're writing about what our audience know and love, and so therefore supporting the brand in a really unique way. And so I think that the content and what we write about, which is all unexpected stories about creativity across every kind of craft, every kind of individual. The team are really good at finding these amazing stories from every corner of the globe. Last year, they profiled like over 1,000 creators from every different continent.
Wow.
So they do a really, really good job of finding these like incredible stories that people just fall in love with. So it's existed for, a couple of years now. It's done a really, really good job. It's got amazing organic traffic. And we use the wallpapers, obviously, which is what you see when you transfer a file, to get people onto the platform. And that some of the work's really, really awesome. So it's kind of there for inspiration. It's also there for entertainment. It's there for educational purposes as well. Some of the content that the team write is really amazing. It's about how freelancers can get paid properly or how to talk to clients. And like there's a lot of really great nuggets of information as well as the really inspiring stories, which make it such a great hub for creatives.
Wow. So it works for inspiring, but also for educational purposes. So I think it just brings a lot of value then to the creatives that work with it, right?
Definitely. Like it brings so much value in giving a platform to people who would never have the chance. You know, we're very, very conscious of how important it is to have diversity and inclusion. So, that's not just in front of the camera, it's also behind the camera. When we work with talent and when we work with film crews and production agencies, it's like we have to make sure it's representative because we want to make sure that we're being authentic to the stories that we're telling.
Yeah.
And the team also make a huge effort every month to kind of sit down and say, okay, we need a story from I guess some area in one part of the world, and that same month we need somewhere from a total opposite area.
Yeah.
So making sure that the actual stories are told and the cultural differences are always really dynamic.
Oh, I like that.
Well, it's conscious. I don't think a lot of publishers do, or they have the luxury really to sit there and go, we have to make sure that it's, complete 50-50.
I'm not sure if it's a luxury. I think it's an effort you have to be willing to put in.
True. And there's always been that conscious effort there, which stands out. It's also like a reason why a lot of people join the company. Yeah. Because we do have such a big, strong push for that. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. It's also how we work. Like within the stories we tell, doesn't like if we get a commissioned work or we make our own work, we always try to involve the target audience.
Yes.
Into the making process, because we are not the ones to tell someone stories from a different culture than us.
Absolutely,
We always try and have a diverse team as much as possible, but also work locally with like crew members and stuff to make sure that we have all these different voices telling their right stories.
That's so, it's so important. It's so important.
Yeah. While at MTV, you've also worked on a notable campaign in support of same-sex marriage. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, that was honestly one of my favourite projects. Myself and a very dear colleague and friend of mine, James Duffield, we were tasked with coming up with a campaign which was in support of the yes vote. So Australia at the time had not, same-sex marriage wasn't legalised. And instead of just making it legal, they put it out for a vote called a plebiscite. And so, which was ridiculous in itself. I think it costs like millions, and I can't remember the amount, but it cost a lot. But basically everybody had to get a piece of paper and tick if they thought, yes, gay people could get married, or no, gay people can't get married. Yeah. And then it was going to go to a vote, and then they would say, okay, if the people want it, then it's legal. In that build-up, we really wanted to make sure that we were supporting the community, that the people that watched MTV, that lived and breathed the brand, that were fans of the brand, understood the importance of it, and especially younger audiences, and that they could feel empowered to get involved. And so we could have written articles and did videos and whatnot, and we did, but the biggest impact that we had was just on the day that the votes were due, we shut off the entire programming service, so the TV screens went black. And it just had a message that said, stop what you're doing, stop watching MTV, go out and vote yes in the same-sex marriage plebiscite. And then on the website, we went completely black as well. So we weren't publishing stories. It was like, a whole kind of blackout, essentially, is what we called it. And it was really, really impactful because it made people think the effort and the time and the amount of teams that were involved in actually shutting off the channel for something so important was really inspiring.
Yeah.
And we were nominated for several awards for the entire campaign, but ultimately it served a purpose that it positioned us in a way that we always had thought, like same-sex marriage was incredibly important to our audience and to who the brand were. And obviously the people that work for it as well. We had a lot of same-sex couples that worked at MTV, and it was.
What stories are you mostly passionate about telling with your work?
I'm not overly passionate about telling the same story over and over again that I always see, like a profile piece for me. I think people are generally interesting. Yeah. And I think that profile pieces can be interesting if someone's lived like quite a dynamic life. I don't know, and they've got really, really great stories to tell. But I'm more interested in like if we do use talent and talent are the focus, like how do we tell more culturally relevant stories that they might have authority in or that they might be particularly known for. Yeah. So like whenever we, when we transfer, we present, when I'm pitching kind of these films to clients and whatnot, like, yes, we can feature this talent and yes, their story is very interesting, but what does it mean outside of them and who they are? So like it's really important that we're not just profile pieces where someone's doing a VO and it's like slow motion images of like this person doing a day in the life. Like how do we make it really, really relevant? So the series that we did with Squarespace was almost like it was about these women and their accomplishments and their lives, but it had this other added layer which made it really engaging, which was like, what does it really mean to be a Black female entrepreneur in 2019? You know, like what does it really mean? What challenges have you faced and how have you overcome them? And like the stories are incredible. You know, it's like it's using their experience but also commenting on something that's really, really important. So I think that like content should always be much more substantial than just fluff and just pretty pictures. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, it needs to the story needs to be good, but also unique.
And it needs to live outside this bubble of like glossiness almost.
Like, thank you for sharing your amazing story with us. I really appreciate it. Wishing you all the best with the rest of your career.
Thank you.
And I hope to speak soon.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thanks for having me.